Hi guys, it's Queenie here, and today I've got a brand spanking new video. Most people think you actually need raid gear to hit hard and it only drops in raids. The game doesn't exactly tell you otherwise, but here's the thing. You can hit 50 crit chance and 150 crit damage using nothing but gear you can farm and countdown and retaliations. No exotics, no RNG, and the chest talent on this build, Perfect Obliterate. Alright, so here's the problem, and I actually did this myself when I first started. You look at the best builds online and every single one has Eagle Bearer or something that only drops some high-end content like legendaries, master missions, where you seem to struggle because you just don't have the DPS. You want to join raids, but you say you can't raid until you have the gear, and I can't get the gear until I start playing that content. Well, this is stupid, and it's a loop, and honestly, it puts people off. I've had players in the clan, lovely people, good aim, great game sense, who wouldn't join a raid because the damage wasn't ready. And every single time I told them the same thing: your damage is fine, the gear you already have, it's more than enough, you just have to put it together the right way. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you how to put this build together. It's a high-end DPS setup that hits the minimum for every single raid in the game, 50 crit chance and 150 crit damage, using 6 pieces you can farm in retaliations and countdown. Not one of them requires any gear from raids, and we're using Perfect Obliterate instead of glass cannons, so you're not getting melted while you learn the mechanics. Right, let's actually look at how the damage works first, because that's the bit most people skip. Alright, so before we even look at the gear pieces, I want to explain why this build actually works, because once you get this, you can build any DPS setup yourself. There are 3 separate things multiplying your damage. Bucket 1, weapon damage. First, you've got your base weapon damage. Every red core adds 15%. All 6 pieces here are red, so that's 90% weapon damage right there, plus whatever on your specialization on your shade watch. Bucket 2, critical hits. Second bucket is your crit. 50% crit chance means any other bullet is a crit. 150 crit damage means those crits hit 2.5 times harder than a normal shot. That's coming from Ceska, giving you an extra 8% crit chance, and Grupo giving you an extra 13 crit damage, and then your attributes on each piece will go through that. Bucket 3, amplifying multiple damage. This is the one people miss, right? Perfect Obliterate, it gives you stacks when you land crits, up to 25% amplified weapon damage at full stacks, and the perfect version, it stacks faster and caps higher than the standard Obliterate. That 25% is a multiple active. It doesn't add to your weapon damage, it multiplies everything after. And then we've got 3 more multiple sources hiding in the brand bonuses. Contractor's gloves, 8% damage to armor. That's its own multiplier. Fox's prayers, 8% damage to targets out of cover. That's a separate multiplier. And the 2-piece unit ally bonus, 20% assault rifle damage, also a multiplier. That's 4 different damage buckets, all multiplying each other. That's why the build hits so hard. It's not one big number, it's lots of separate numbers stacking together. If you want to go a bit nerdy about it, glass cannon is 25% amp, but you take 50% more damage. Perfect Obliterate is 25% amp with 0 downsides, so you're hitting just as hard, but you're not getting one shot by a red bar hyena. That actually matters when you're learning raids. Right, let's go through it piece by piece. This is the bit where you want to pause and take notes. Hi guys, this is actually my high-end build, which I've been messing about with for the past couple days. I run it with Gunner, which gives me armor on kill. I have got my Lexington, which will be available during stretch goals, which start on Tuesday. I've got Optimus on it at the moment because I run that in a group. I've also got my SMG, which is the Dark Winter with Perfect Killer, but sometimes I do run my classic M1A with Rifleman. I've also got the Quick Step as my pistol, as it gives me 20% extra movement speed. Alright, let's move on to the gear. I've got 1 piece Grupo, 1 piece Ceska, 2 pieces unit alloys, contractors, and foxes. Let's take a closer look at the gear. We start with the foxes. The foxes come with Overlord ornaments, bonus, and gives us an extra 10% rifle damage, which comes in handy when we're using the M1A. We have 8% damage to target out of cover, and I've got crit damage on there. Contractors, we get a brand set bonus of 10% LMG damage, which I totally ignore because I'm not interested in that whatsoever. What I am interested in is this bit here, 8% damage to armor, and I've got crit damage rolled on. The backpack is a Ceska piece. The brand set bonus is 8% crit chance. I've got crit damage and crit chance on it, and a crit damage mod. Talent is Vigilance, increases total weapon damage by 25%. Taking damage disables this buff for 4 seconds. My Grupo piece is the mask. I've got crit damage and crit chance on it, and the crit damage mod, and the brand set bonus is an extra 13% crit damage. My unit alloys piece is the named holster, the Salvoy. The brand set bonuses give me 5% rate of fire and 20% assault rifle damage. I get an extra 5% rate of fire on the attributes, which gives us a grand total of 10% rate of fire. And I've rolled crit damage on there as well. On the chest piece, I've got the named version, which is Equalizer. I've got crit chance, crit damage on it with a crit damage mod. The talent is Perfect Obliterate. Crit hits increase total weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 24 times. I've got the Banshee Pulse on at the moment because I've been running around in the open world, but I do normally run with a scanner both in raids and Reviver Hive. Let's take a look at the stats. As you can see, crit chance is 51% and 164 crit damage. Alright, so let's do a quick stat check. You want 50 crit chance, a minimum, and 150 crit damage. 6 red cores, that's 90% weapon damage, and 4 separate multiplying sources. Perfect Obliterate at 25%, and Contractors 8% damage to armor, Foxes 8% damage to target out of cover, and unit alloys 20% assault rifle damage. Everything is Farmable and Countdown, nothing locked behind a raid. Let's see what it actually does in Lincoln Memorial. We're going to go ahead into Lincoln Memorial, and as you can see how fast it stacks comes up. Every crit hit builds a stack with 50 chance, and the AR firing at 850 RPM. You're at full stacks in 3 seconds. And that is the Perfect Obliterate difference. It just ramps faster. You can see how fast these ads are actually dying. That is the damage to a target out of cover. And you can see that Perfect Obliterate has full stacks as well. And the thing I actually really enjoy, you're not squishy. Glass cannon builds get deleted if an outcast grenader lands on you, which you've got a bit of survivability. You can actually take a hit. That matters when you're learning encounters. Alright, you've seen how it works in Heroic. The whole point of this build is to get you raid ready. So let's talk about how it actually performs in Dark Hours or Iron Horse. Dark Hours is a DPS check boomer. You just need enough damage to drop his armor and then his health. While kiting him around the turrets, the build clears the menu and confidently. Perfect Obliterate stacks up fast on boomer because he is a big target. You're not missing crits. Contractor's 8% damage to armor works on his armor plates. Fox's prayers is active the whole time because he's a massive robot charging you. Iron Horse, you've got multiple DPS checks, Major Williams in a foundry, the Forge, Morozova, all of them. The damage is there. And the survivability from not running Glass Cannon means you're not going to die to a single bullet from the True Sons. The one thing I will say, and I am going to be honest with you, is that this build works best with an assault rifle. The 20% assault rifle damage from the unit alloys means you want to be running an AR as your primary. Elmos is a big no in the race due to the shock rounds. It messes up some of the encounters. You would rather have a Lexington, Police M4, Shield Splinter, Famous, F2000, just to name a few. There's some really much better choices than the Elmos. Just make sure it's got damage to target out of cover as the third attribute. That stacks with the Fox's prayers. Feel free to swap your secondary and sidearm to whatever you like. I usually run a SMG or the M1A and my quick step. Skills, Reviver Hive and a decoy. Sometimes you'll need an assault turret if you want to run some extra survivability. If you're solo, fix a drone. Banshee pulls. Those are what I run when I'm solo. Also, if you're solo, killer on your assault rifle works a treat. Alright, let's just do a quick recap because there's a lot of information in this one. A Master's Grupo and the brand set bonus an extra 13% crit damage. Chest piece, Equalizer. Perfect Obliterate, unit alloys. Holster, Salvoy, unit alloys. 2 pieces gives you an extra 5% rate of fire and 20% assault rifle damage. Backpack is Ceska and talent Vigilance. That's an extra 8% crit chance with a brand set bonus. And gloves is Contractors with 8% damage to armor. Kneepads is Foxes with 8% damage to target out of cover. Our stat target is 50 crit chance and 150 crit damage, 6 red calls. Everything is farmable in retaliations and countdown. Named items you can get from named caches at the countdown vendor or at events. Nothing's locked behind the raid. If you have been putting off raiding because you thought your damage wasn't ready, it is now January. Book a slot in one of our teaching runs and we'll get you through. If we wipe, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's all part of learning. And that is actually everything for today's build guide. I really hope this was helpful. Whether you're brand new to DPS or have been playing for a while, and just wanted something that doesn't use glass cannon. If you've enjoyed this, feel free to like and subscribe. It generally helps the channel. And if you have any questions about the build, drop them in the comments. I read all of them. Discord is linked below. If you want to join the Blackfire community and actually come raiding with us, we'll do teaching runs most days. Everyone's welcome. Come fly with us and I'll see you in the next one. And don't forget to check out my other build videos. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.